weird. Should I tell you how my husband almost didn't marry me?
Yes. Why are theater people so weird? And this is a topic.
What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah. Surrounding yourself with theater people. I think people who aren't in theater look at theater people and they're like, why are they so weird? And then for some reason, theater people are like, yeah, we're weird. Like, we love being weird. But like, why? Why are we weird? I think it's embarrassing when theater people do say they're weird, though. Here's the thing. I think I'm unique. I'm not weird.
Oh, what's the definition of weird?
I know. What is it? So I guess, how would you define it? I would define weird as like odd, funky, and maybe a little bit like, I don't know.
What is the definition of
weird? Like if you're like, that's weird, you know?
So you don't think all theater folk are weird then?
No. But I think a lot of us are perceived as weird. Oh, do you think I'm what is your question?
Okay.
Is your question, do you think I'm perceived as weird? Or is your question, am I weird? Because there's a difference.
So do you think you're perceived as weird?
Yes.
Do you think I'm perceived as weird?
No.
I do. I do think I am. Should I tell you how my husband almost didn't marry me?
Yes.
Well, I was ready to marry him. I think I embarrassed him to death.
Tell us. Spill the tea.
So my husband and I are completely opposite, which I think is the reason that our relationship works, right?
Adorable.
But we, there's learning curves, right? So I wanted to go to a basketball game at Bob Jones, where we both graduated from. And for some reason, he was studying or not. He didn't want to go. And so I went with another speech major friend of mine. And we decided we were going to play tricks on the people that were there that night. Because, we were bored and we're theater people. So I would go over and I would sit next to one couple. And my friend, Eddie, would go sit next to the other couple, and then we'd start talking over them and like just being obnoxious and make up this, oh my goodness, I can't believe
you're here,
and
they're just sitting there like,
yes. So my husband's roommate was sitting on the other side of the gym and saw that my friend Eddie and I were doing all this, and so got home and told Chuck, and he wrote me.
No.
Okay, so you couldn't call in rooms back then.
Okay.
Yes, I lived in the dark ages. And so he wrote me a note, and I got it that night, and he was like, this is just unacceptable.
Did he say why? Like, why? That's so silly.
It embarrassed him. They were making a scene.
That's so funny.
So, yeah, I guess I'm weird. Because, like, how many of you would do something like that? Probably would you? Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like a casual Monday night, to be honest.
Yes, right. I know. So we were just having fun, right? So I think that to some people in the world, your personality is so different.
Yeah.
Like for a theater person, you're usually in theater for one of two or three reasons.
Ooh. Okay.
So number one, you just love the arts, and you have this exceptional talent to sing, dance, act, and it's just a place that you feel comfortable and you can be yourself, and so you do it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one reason. And then number two, sometimes you're there to channel yourself, right? Because you have all this extrovertedness.
Yeah.
And it's just again,
can
another
talk
place
to
that you
people.
can just talk and you can have friends and you can pour it out on stage and you can do it.
That's me.
And the third one is the opposite. I think sometimes you're so introverted that drama in theater gives you a place that you don't have to be yourself. You can really pretend to be somebody else. And that's actually the reason I'm a theater major.
And an opportunity to really step out and have something to
and
be
learn
scared
from other people and push yourself to become different, which is what happened with me.
Yeah.
I was so shy. I didn't have confidence. And so by just one by one doing that and getting more comfortable and meeting other people and having them accept me for who I was, where I was, and not trying to change me and, make me a mathlete or whatever, just all of a sudden, the next thing you know, I'm director and have my own theater.
And I think in your case, that was a way that God has used theater in a really amazing way. Like, hey, I'm accepting you for who God created you to be and all these really cool things. And I think in today's day and age, I think theater kids are weird because it is a space where people are very accepting. Yeah. Like, I mean, in most shows, I can think back to just the camaraderie of a lot of different characters in real life coming together and being together. And I think that's what makes us kind of weird, is because in today's day and age, we like to hide a lot of flaws and we like to put on a face and we feel like we have to put our best foot forward. But I feel like in theater, it's honestly very vulnerable, and you are putting yourself on there on the stage, but you're also putting yourself out there in front of other people behind stage. And I think that'd be a good thing, but I also think it can be sometimes a bad thing, where we celebrate each other's flaws, maybe sometimes in a way that maybe isn't good. Like, it's not encouraging someone to get better. Like, hey, I see your flaw, but let's work toward not having that flaw. It's, I see your flaw, I accept your flaw, continue in your flaw. Right. So I think that's where theater has this like pendulum that sometimes can swing out of whack. But I do think it's an amazing tool, like God has used in your life, to say, no, Reba, like, you feel shy, but here's this opportunity to show who you are, and now you have a theater company, and God's using it in amazing ways. What about you? What do you think?
Thank you. About, like,
why are theater kids weird? Right, why are theater people weird?
I do think that there is, I do think that there are many, many reasons, but I do think that theater kids tend to be more passionate and more emotional and more artsy. And so, you know, their body is a canvas. And so they're piercing and they're tattooing and they're
color hair and
spiking their
not
hair.
Afraid to speak.
They're not afraid to let their emotions show through how they dress and what they are, whether it's gothic or whether it's, you know, tattoos and gauges in their ear or whatever, you know. And I think that the analytical world doesn't understand that. They don't understand that passion. And I think they can even go, it doesn't have to be just theater people, but it can also be worship arts people. That book that I read, that we were reading, The Heart of the Artist, it has a whole chapter that lends itself to that. I meant to bring it and I forgot it, but it talks about that very thing, that a lot of times the rest of the church doesn't understand the people on the worship arts team because they have emotions. And so they can be like, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it. I mean, that's the way we are, like, right?
Just chill, just continue.
Because that makes us live through the music that we're singing and worship music, but yet also be able to give the best dying scene on stage as possible. Because we can emote. Yeah.
And in art, it is a lot about emotions. Yes. And it's less head knowledge and way more heart. Yeah. Because you're going to memorize those lines, and then you're not going to use your brain to remember them because they're memorized. But you're
and a
lot
of
your
times the rest of the world is like, no, I can't show you that I'm thinking. I can't well, not thinking, but I can't show you that I'm feeling because, you know, you don't need to hear about that.
And I think it's the pretty package too. It's like, I'm not going to present something until I'm 100% good at it and 100% capable and qualified for something. I'm not going to bring that to the world. But I think theater is literally the opposite. It gives a stage to someone who is not maybe qualified for the best, you know, for the role they're in or what they're doing, but they have the opportunity to do it. There's a unhealthy weird, and then there's a healthy weird, I think.
Yeah.
And I think if the theater people can find a little more toward the healthy, you know, and if the non-theater people could see like, oh, like being myself in a healthy way, not feeling the pressure of the world to be perfect, but to be like, oh, I can go on stage even if I'm not perfect. I can be my, and not stage, but like stage of the world, like sharing yourself and sharing your talents that God has given you with people, even though you're not perfect at it.
I love that so much because I do think we suffer with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
We compare ourselves to each other. And I do know people who have so much anxiety about it not meeting up to either their own personal standards or other people that it's detrimental to them. So our takeaway is, yes, we accept that we are different and that the rest of the world may not be able to accept us. We accept the fact that sometimes we push our weirdness a little bit too far. But we also would like to challenge the rest of the people to be able to understand that, we're all different, but that's okay. And to be able to say, wow, maybe I need to sit down and talk about God with that theater person because they're so much more passionate because they do it differently, right? Because they believe it differently. So,
Amen. So maybe comment down below, what is your stage that you need to take? What is something that you can go into that you haven't been, or you've like, oh, I'm not perfect at this yet? What is God leading you toward? Because I think that is something I'm even going to think about in my own life.
Yeah, me too. Until next time, this is just me.
And me.
Talking to you
from the wings.